you're the second band in the last few days to come out with music that I've seen about Robert Oppenheimer. Now, what inspired that? Was it? Did this interest obviously predate the movie, or is it just coincidental?
Um, Interest predated the movie, and it was just honestly good luck and good fortune that that song came out at the same time as the movie did. Um, I've always known that quote, "I am become death, destroyer of worlds." I always thought it was just like fantastically metal. I'm sure a million metal bands have like used it previously. They'd be fools not to. It's just so brutal. Um, and in fact, like for that song, I wanted to change the song title, like because I was sure that like I was treading down a pretty well-worn path there. And simply I couldn't think of anything better, so that's how it went. It went to the printers as. Um, but yeah, I think I've remembering it recently. Like my first introduction to it wasn't through history or school or anything like that. It was more through the Clive Barker book. I was at the Great and Secret Show where there's a time loop stuck in the town of Trinity at 5 seconds before the bomb goes off. um, yeah, it's a wild book, but I think the interest kind of like got me going there. I was kind of like, okay, New Mexico, a guy who's kind of like built this thing that could just about explode God, and the town's called Trinity as well. The whole thing sort of like just made these like little sort of like artistic biblical notes kind of sing in my head a bit. So anyway, it's always kind of stuck there. And with werewolves, honestly, the rate that we produce material, like I just, I don't pause too much to look at any material that comes out of my head. Like there's not enough time to.
Have you ever seen a film? Just side note: have you ever seen the film Trinity and Beyond?
Mm-mm.
So it was
Nope.
made in the mid '90s, and it was all of the nuclear test footage, starting from Trinity and going like all the way to the biggest ones. And it was narrated by William Shatner, and the music was
Okay.
by Holst, the classical composer. And it's just, yeah, it is chilling and massive. Like you're seeing everything, obviously from these, the original test to like the Russians dropped a bomb called Tsar Bomber.
It's a bomber.
Yep.
Yep.
And it was so big, the shockwave went around the world three times. Like,
Yeah. I think the guys who dropped the plane had to put it on a parachute to give themselves enough time to get away. They were 27 miles away, and the shockwave still nearly knocked them out of the sky. They were in free fall for about 900 meters, uh, or it might have been 9 kilometers. I forget. Before they were able
mm,
to like get control of the plane. The terrible, crazy thing is that what was it? Something like 10 megaton or something like that. But Khrushchev wanted one that was 100 megaton. Um,
yeah, and they only
or
changed it just beforehand. I think they
yeah,
retarded it a little bit
yeah.
because it was, yeah.
They were like, we can't guarantee. Yeah, I think they're underselling it to him a little bit or undercooking it. They were saying, look, there might be a little bit of fallout over Russia. Like if we drop this, you know, it, it's like, no, honestly, there's a good chance that we might explode the entire northern hemisphere off the planet. Like, so yeah, it's crazy. Now I think about it, I think I've mentioned Bomber in Sublime Wartime Voyeurism off one of the earlier albums. So
Yeah,
got nukes on the brain.
I love it. I remember, yeah, being fascinated by them as a kid because they're so ungodly horrible. My God, they're a spectacle. It's just,
And any kid who had an ant's nest in the backyard and like filled it full of petrol and chucked a match at it and watched the entire earth go, you know, they're the ones that get into nuclear bomb footage, I reckon.
100%. Um, Mate, so my enemies look and sound like me. What were the biggest challenges in creating this?
Um, oh God, let me see. So, shit, what was that? Number four. All right. Well, one of the challenges was we sort of like recorded the music for albums three and four at the same time. So there's, yeah, 20 something tracks that we just kind of crammed in, learnt up, and then recorded all at once. So one of the real problems was, sitting down and working out what track is going to be on what album. We're kind of like, all right, we don't want to make one vastly better than the other. We have to sort of like balance them out, and also balance them out in terms of, I guess, material as well. Not make one of them sort of like the sludge album, the other one the rabid, kick down the neighbor's fence and like headbutt their children sort of album. Um, yeah, so that was probably the hardest bit out of it. Um, for me, doing the vocals and the lyrics is always hard for these as well. Like there hasn't been for me an easy album yet, I don't think.
Uh, so what? Um, the kind of what the album art is very vivid with the two kind of sides converging on each other. What do you describe? I have a basic idea, but could you kind of illustrate the concept of that artwork and what you were trying to convey?
I suspect that you know, well, you've got the right idea about what the concept is. Like, we're not being particularly subtle about this at all. Especially, the album title works in with it so well. So it's two identical opposing groups of people hysterically pissed at each other and just massacring each other and themselves for absolutely no discernible reason, which ties into the album title as well. My enemies look and sound like me. But yeah, the general idea is that quite often these days people are in these life and death furious arguments about basically almost identical positions.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's kind of wild. And that's whether you take like, some of the wars that are happening or genocides in recent history. I definitely had Rwanda like in my head. I mean, to the rest of the world, what the hell is the difference between a Hutu and a Tutsi?
Mm.
Identical. Um, however, yeah, that was enough for the entire country just to lose their mind and, go on the rampage. And it's something that you see sort of like repeatedly. And even at a lower level as well, you can see sort of like, oh God, I hate saying it because it's just such like the hot button topic of the day, but like social media as well. Like, again, you just get identical people with almost identical positions finding that 0.01% difference and just like
Mm.
yahing over, each other to the death over that position. So that was definitely in my head. Like, I could be lying there. Like, quite often when we give like Mitchell, who's the artist for like all our albums, Tasmanian guy does a absolutely sick job. Um, quite often we'll finish an album and I've done the vocals and lyrics and stuff like that, and then Mitchell sort of goes, "Okay, so what am I painting? What's this album about?" And I'm kind of like sitting there going, and just trying to attach reason to this morass that's just like erupted out of my brain. So, um, yeah, that's the meaning that we attach to that album, whether it's like, really there or not. Yeah, I
Yeah.
claim artistic immunity.
It social media thing's incredible, isn't it? Like
Mm,
we I have to ask, and I try to just keep this in the back of my mind every time I see something that upsets me or outrages me or whatnot. I just ask myself, who's gaining from
yeah.
me being upset about this? Someone is trying to piss me off. I know
Mm.
this. Who's
I
gaining?
was, I was actually talking to the missus about this the other night. 'Cause, like, I'm 48 years old, so I'm the last generation that grew up minus the internet. Um, and it was really funny. Like, in my early 20s, me and my friends used to just get fucking stoned and watch the news, like, because we'd be waiting for The Simpsons to come on, and the news break would come on, and it'd be like, a death and a suicide, and someone's shot someone, and a flood over here, and we'd be sitting there, eyes like Terminator red, and we, as soon as like the news like had done its 30 seconds, we'd all make fun of it. We'd turn to each other and go, "War, death, plague, poison, evil, hate." Hate,
uh,
hate, just and our stoned contention was that news was just throwing hate at us, thinking that's what's going to sell. And it's kind of like, where's the good stories? The funny thing now is like, again, all the news comes through on the internet. You can curate basically
Mm.
what you see. And we're still going for the stuff that pisses us off and is
Yeah.
like, doom and hate and division and all the rest of it. So I've got to hand it to those news producers of old. They knew what got the views. They knew what got us interested. So yeah.
It, it's interesting. I actually, I had a bit of a mental health crisis within the last 6 months or so, and jumped on the antidepressants and I've never felt better. But
Mm,
one thing that I did for myself was I just stopped following all news outlets on Facebook,
mm,
and I recommend it to anyone because
yeah.
legitimately, like, what's your argument? I'm informed. I'm angry all the time, and the world's miserable, and we're all going to die. Like, I just
Mm,
no, there's no news like bad news. We all know this. And I just thought to
yeah.
myself, what am it's either something horrible that I can't change
Mm.
or something I can't do anything about. Yeah, I'm good.
And then uh, and then your mind also can get in a spiral as well, going, am I really being informed? Or like
Yeah.
so occasionally you'll see somewhere else in the world report on something that you know intimately well, or on the place that you live, and you just like see, how wrong they get it, and you're like, man, how Chinese whispers is like, my experience of the world at the moment.
No.
There's broad brushstrokes where I'm like, I'll buy that this is happening, but yeah, it's I know what you mean. Like
Mm,
it's you do need to break and detox sometimes,
yeah.
and yeah, I've taken shorter breaks this year. This year's been a hard one. Like for it sounds like it's been a rough one for yourself, dude, but um, yeah, it's a common theme. It's like it's everyone. Like everyone I know is having an absolute shocker.
Mm,
Just not so much with stuff happening. I think just like the turbulent last 3 or 4 years are like starting to just bubble out a bit now, and it's
yeah.
just it's a rough go.
So, I love a good sample in my music. Like I'm a grind head, grew up listening to, Blood
Well, we've
Duster.
got you, fam.
Oh yeah, my first ever indoor concert was so I'm Tasmanian, and I actually grew up.
Yeah.
My first ever indoor concert was Blood Duster, supported by Psychroptic, at the Batman Faulkner Hotel in Launceston. I was 18 years old, and I was not prepared. Like,
What what a way to start.
oh yeah, fantastic. Um, and there's a great sample at the end of Under the Ground. You're
Yes.
all pathetic. What is that from?
I don't know. Matt dug that one up. Like we've both lived in England a whole bunch of years, and like obviously he's in tight with the Akakoka guys, from his time playing with them. But like I think he just got fed this steady diet of like English geezer movies, like when he was there. So he just keeps on like pulling these really geezer sounding samples out where someone's getting caught a cunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. He'd be able to tell you that one. I know we were like plowing movie Gangster Number One for a little bit, which is the Malcolm McDowell one. That was the one where we got that sample, "Get out of my way, you cunt," like
Yeah.
that from the "What a Time to Be Alive" album. I think Mission Statement, but yeah, I don't know. We sort of for us that's the favorite bit of doing the album because we've got all the music and everything done, and usually by then the artwork's well on its way as well, and we're just like, oh, let's dig up some samples, and we've normally been collecting like ones for like the last 12 months, and I usually err on the side of comedy, unfortunately. Like
I noticed that a bit with what I've heard of werewolves. Yeah, you don't take yourself terribly seriously, which I like.
yeah, yeah, nah. Both music, but also doing the band. Like Matt is kind of like the overarching, I guess, executive producer of the whole thing. So yeah, I'll be tossing samples and he'll be going, look, we can be a little jokey, we can be a little bit funny, but we don't want to be an outright ha ha band. So those samples have to have that bit of an edge. Um, but yeah, just with the band, I think that's the secret sauce to like what we do, not taking it too seriously. It's when you take things seriously, then you kind of, you know, really having a big artistic struggle over like the music and I need 16 bars of blast beats, like, not a paltry eight. I need them to feel the violence. It's good, like for a band, like, when you're just not too serious about it, you can just be like, do whatever, man, knock yourself out. And that goes for the lyrics as well. I'm sort of trying to do a real fine line between having stuff that's kind of, hilariously abusive. But I'm not about to start like ripping jokes or writing songs like raped by an elephant or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
Well, look, speaking of that, of I guess extremity, I didn't realize uh, that you're also in the Berserker. And of course, there is, growing up, there was a special place in my heart for the first time I ever saw the video to No One Wins. And I remember just being like, what is this? Uh, First of all, like, is that band still going? From what I heard, you were looking to release something. I don't know what's going on there.
yeah, it's what we call indefinite hiatus. There was that announcement in 2020, and everything was lining up to do an album then. I'd written and contributed 5 songs, and I think Matt had thrown in material, as had Ed and Jason, and handed it to Luke, and then COVID hit, and then Luke had not only a terrible year, but a terrible couple of years. It just went off his radar. Um, so yeah, as far as I know, there's nothing happening there at the moment, which sucks. Like, there's a few of us who are always kind of like, it'd be really good to do something. We see the bands that have been around for 20 years or whatever who come back and like, totally crush it. And I'm greedy as well. Like, it's not enough to have one band that's doing well and like, releasing albums and touring. I want a few. Um, I'd laugh when you mentioned No One Wins. Like, I still, I still hear it to this day about that bit of the footage where I kick at the wall. Um,
That was what stood out in my mind too.
that was filmed in Melbourne, like in the eastern suburbs. It was the southeastern freeway extension. I think that they were still building at the time, which dates the video a bit. Um, but I remember turning up to be filmed that day, and I was so hungover, and I had to get that mask on. I had to headbang. I had to do things. I had to play through it with gloves on and stuff. And dude, all I could smell was just like my own body excreting like scotch out into the mask, and it was so nasty. So I was just giving it as much as possible, and I had no idea what I was doing. But yeah, that was the first proper video. I think like Reality and Forever, it was obvious that we were just like, that they were more promotional videos.
Mm,
No One Wins was the first one where it was kind of like, okay, so this is the video
yeah,
where
yeah.
we haven't plastered www.theberserker.com like right over the top of it.
Nice. Now, I literally have scars underneath this arm from the last time I saw Dave Haley playing. It was in I was seeing Psychroptic at a venue called the PAV in Launceston. I have no idea if that even exists anymore. Around 2008, and was crowd surfing, got
Mhm.
dropped on a broken bottle, uh,
Oh,
and was so
yeah.
drunk I didn't even know what had happened until the next morning. And I woke up and my sheets looked like a scene from CSI.
Oh,
Uh,
crikey.
um,
Damn.
Mate, what do you think makes him stand out so much in the field of death metal?
Oh, well, he's always been a good drummer. Like I remember, around 2000, what, 23 years ago now, Berserker auditioned him. We wanted him for like our US tour that we did with Dying Fetus and Gorguts, and we knew he was a Kevin Talley fan, so we were just like going, "Come on, dude, play with us." He was one of the first guys in Australia who could do those, over 240 or 240 and over blast beats like properly with groove and all the rest of it. Whereas every other guy we were using, we were kind of either having to cheat, like with just snare rolls, or we're having to teach them how to blast like that ourselves. But he was consistent. But there's one other quality about the guy that I think is a bit of the secret to his success. He's really chill. He's really, really chill. I haven't seen him crack the shits. I'm a big gossiper and I talk a lot of shit about people and just like, and he won't. He keeps his own counsel very much. Stoic, steadfast, reliable would probably be like, and that goes for both the Haley guys, like, reliable in capital letters. If they say something's going to be done, or it's done, which is it's a rare quality in doing music. Even the best of us like have, whacked out 6 months where we're just like off the grid or moody or unreliable or whatever. It just sort of goes with the territory. So that's pretty much the secret to his success, and why he's also successful with the businesses that he runs or is part of as well. Like, it's that reliable, but also that steadfast, non-shit talking, amiable quality. So yeah, no, he's a pleasure to work with.
Nice. Mate, awesome, mate. Thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah, no worries.
Have a great weekend. And yes, we will be chucking once I edit this up, it'll be up on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe to it because we are this close to finally getting monetized after all of our hard work. Because I had an interview with
Excellent.
Dave Ellefson recently.
Oh, wow.
I
Yeah.
know, and it because he said a few spicy quotes. Obviously, this was after
About
everything.
Dave.
Uh
Or about the
yes,
wank?
it was about the quote that I may have put in this in the thumbnail was I saved Megadeth's ass, which he actually did say. So this wasn't me being clickbaity. But
Yeah.
all the gossip rags took it and fucking ran with it, and all of a sudden I've
Uh,
got like 63,000 views, which is over 6 times what my previous one was. I was like, oh shit.
oh, fantastic.
So we're almost gonna get money. Yay! I'll be able to get like, I don't know, $5 a fucking year for my YouTube feed.
We'll see
So
if we can push you across the line.
yes, thank you, mate.
It's all good.
Awesome, mate. All right, have a great day and
Uh,
congratulations on the album.
Thank you very much. I also just noticed the Nails t-shirt.
Yes,
Which one is it?
this is Life is a Death Sentence. So yeah,
Oh, cool.
I have developed a lot of cool music taste from looking at the patches that Max Cavalera wears on his jacket. He got me into Nails, All Pigs Must Die, Full of Hell, all of this great stuff. And I'm like,
Ah, I love Full of Hell. Like that's
mm,
the bar I measure myself against when like doing vocals. I'm kind of like, right, got to try and be as mental as him.
yeah. So yeah, man. He seems to have good old Uncle Max has fucking amazing taste in music. God bless him.
Maybe that's what I need to do. I was just like, I haven't been like fosking out new music or like trying to find any of it or anything like that. It seems to be something that just happens when you get over 35 or whatever. You just,
Yeah.
yeah.
This was something, and as someone who works as a quote unquote music writer, I
Mm.
found that all the people that I was interviewing were guys in their 50s because they were the guys in their 20s and the 90s when I was coming up. So,
Yeah.
and I was like, no, I need to actually listen to like the new generation of shit. And there's a lot of cool stuff. Like
Mm.
the kids are all right, you know what I mean? They're going
Yeah.
hard. bless them.
Yeah. I was going to say my bugbear has always been like they just seem to have gone off in these directions, like away from the riff. Um,
Yes.
where if I'm from the bolt thrower days, man, where if you have a good riff, you make an album out of it. Like,
Yeah,
um,
I noticed that. I
don't even
noticed,
change the key. Yeah. Whereas these days, it's kind of like if you got a good riff, play it for 5 seconds, never touch it again. Um,
this is going to make me sound like an old man, but when I went to Knotfest earlier this year,
mm,
and so Slipknot did something interesting. They actually brought out that if they'd just brought a bunch of '90s bands with them, it would have killed. But instead, they brought pretty much all newer generation bands.
yeah.
One thing, with the notable exception of Megadeth.
Mm,
But one thing I noticed was almost the entire day, it sounded like every band had the same guitarist.
yeah.
And yeah, there was no real individual. Like, I'm like listening to it. Is that a Spirit Box riff or a Void Division riff? Like,
Yeah. And
yeah.
for me as well, like quite often that goes for the vocalists as well.
Mm,
Especially in the extreme ends, like where I'm from the day where Glenn Benton sounded different from Carl Willits, sound different from Millie from Creator, sounded different from James Hetfield, from the Sodom guy, from Dave
mm,
Vincent, from like, Jeff and Bill from Carcass. Like everyone was really different. And I'm probably as big a offender as everyone else because I'm just sort of like mimicking all of them when I do my stuff. But yeah, I sort of noticed that like, the vocalists are exactly the same sound, same patterns, the same sort of like approach to the whole thing. Just, it makes it hard for me to get into. It's kind of like the iteration sort of stops like somewhere in the 2000s.
mm.
But that's I'm also well aware that is very likely just the old man in me like ignoring all the good shit. And I
Yeah.
say all that. I say all that we're going on the road with Archspire in October, and no one can really accuse them of like not being different from everyone else. So
No, and having a fantastic music. That Drone Corpse Aviator video they did with their parents. Oh, I died! And how good are how amazingly supportive are their parents?
oh
Just
no,
sitting
I
there
could
watching
just
it go,
I
yeah,
could
just
just
like,
imagine I could just imagine my parents. They'd be like, "We're not appearing in one of your bloody videos. Forget it." Let alone like sitting there, sort of like step parent with like biological parent sharing a glass of wine. That was so cool. I was like, ah.
they have got very, very supportive parents, bless them.
Yeah, nah, there's this kind of like metal thing in me, like that's in most like professional musicians, where when you see another band or someone doing well, you're like, oh, fuck those guys,
Yeah.
Um, but with Archspire, it's like when I see him doing well, I'm kind of like, good on him.
Yeah.
I can't feel bad for him.
Uh,
It looks like a well-deserved success.
they are, yeah, bless them. They seem like lovely guys. Um, we're about to get
Yeah.
kicked off Zoom, my friend, so I'm going to say goodbye. Be good
Okie
to
dokie.
yourself, and we'll talk to you
Thank you.
soon.
You too. Cheers, mate.